This is you. You are staring at the glowing screen of a burner phone at 2 in the morning. The message from the El Paso stash house is short, but it makes your blood run cold. 3 kilos short on a 50-kilo delivery. The driver swears on his life he loaded every last gram. The stash house manager swears on his family it arrived short. One of them is lying, and that lie just signed your death warrant. In this business, a shortage isn't a math error. It's theft. And theft is punished in exactly one way. You have a few hours to find the missing product and expose the rat before Elias finds out. If Elias hears about this first, he won't investigate. He won't care if it was the driver, the manager, or you. He will simply erase the entire supply chain. You don't carry a gun. Your only weapons are logic, spreadsheets, and the flawless system you built yourself. But if that system fails tonight, you pay for it with your own blood. You take a deep breath, flip open your encrypted laptop, and start pulling the truck's GPS logs. Your fingers fly across the keyboard, tracing every second of the route from the border, hunting for the slightest anomaly in the data. But as you stare at the glowing numbers, the same question keeps echoing in your head. How did it even come to this? How did a 20-year-old kid, whose only real skill was filling out customs paperwork, end up deciding who lives and who dies among the most ruthless criminals in Juárez? You grew up in Juárez, close enough to the border that you could see the razor wire from your roof. Your mother sold tacos from a rusty cart. Your father drove a delivery truck for a bottled water company. Twice a week, he crossed the checkpoint with perfectly legal cargo, coming home smelling of diesel exhaust and stamped paperwork. Sitting in the passenger seat as a kid, you watched him navigate those borders. He knew every customs agent by name. He knew which lanes moved fast and which ones would pull you aside for a random search. He taught you an unbreakable rule. A clean truck, flawless documents, and a calm, bored expression get you waved through 99 times out of 100. You didn't realize it back then, but you were memorizing the most valuable skill set in the entire Juárez underworld. Not how to pull a trigger, but the art of logistics. But those skills only landed you a mind-numbing desk job at a local freight company. Your daily routine was processing bills of lading, customs declarations, and shipping manifests. It was soul-crushing, repetitive work that paid a miserable $600 a month, just enough to split rent on a cramped concrete apartment. You were 20 years old, and your greatest talent was knowing exactly how to move boxes from point A to point B while making the math look perfect on paper. In a city like this, that isn't a career path. It's a resume. And it was exactly what the devil was looking for. The devil doesn't wear a ski mask or carry a gold-plated gun. He wears a tailored suit, drinks sparkling water, and goes by the name Elias. He finds you the way people like him always find talent, through a whisper network of cousins, uncles, and friends of friends. He invites you to a high-end steakhouse, white tablecloths, perfect service. He never once mentions drugs or the cartel. He tells you he runs an agricultural import-export firm that needs a sharp logistics coordinator. The hours are brutal, he says, but the pay is $3,000 a month, in cash. That is exactly 5 times your current salary. He gives you 24 hours to think about it. You only need about 3 seconds, but you wait until the next morning to call him back, just so you don't look desperate. The first week is exactly what he promised. You move farming equipment and auto parts, real products, real invoices, real shipping routes. It is entirely legitimate. But by week 3, the pattern shifts. You process a manifest for a load of tractor attachments. The paperwork is flawless. The seals match perfectly. But when the truck pulls into the yard, you notice the suspension. It is sitting about half an inch lower than it should for that specific cargo. The manifest claims an extra 40 kilos of steel. You do the math in your head. The physics simply do not add up. You remember your father's rule. You look at the driver, you look at the paperwork, and you stamp the approval without asking a single question. You just process the shipment like all the others. Elias watches you do it from his office window. He notices that you noticed, and he notices that you kept your mouth shut. That was your real interview. And you just passed. Month 2 begins, and Elias takes you to the real warehouse. Not the clean one with the glass office and the espresso machine. You drive out to a corrugated metal bunker on the dusty edge of Juárez. You expect to see scenes from a movie. Guys with neck tattoos, snorting lines off mirrors, assault rifles leaning against the walls. Instead, you walk into a sterile, brightly lit assembly line. The men here are wearing thick rubber gloves, face masks, and safety goggles. They are working with digital scales, calipers, and clipboards. It is manufacturing. It is strict quality control. You stand there, watching the mechanics of a multi-million-dollar empire. You have 100 questions, but you only ask Elias one. How do we beat the dogs? He smiles when you use the word we. Then he shows you the system. It is a masterpiece of chemical engineering. First, the product is packed into heavy-duty plastic and triple vacuum sealed. But that isn't enough. Dogs can smell microscopic traces. So the packages are scrubbed down with an aggressive industrial solvent that neutralizes any surface residue. Next, the bricks are shoved deep into the hollow steel frames of heavy tractor attachments. A master fabricator steps in, welding the steel shut and painting over the seams with factory spec yellow paint. The welds look completely original. Finally, the entire exterior of the machinery is heavily sprayed down with thick petroleum grease and hydraulic fluid. To a Border Patrol X-ray machine, it is just dense, solid steel. To a highly trained K9 unit, it is just a dirty, leaking piece of farm equipment. The dog's nose is entirely overwhelmed by the petroleum signature. The only way to find the product is to physically cut open a legitimate agricultural shipment with a blowtorch. And no customs agent is going to destroy expensive machinery with perfect paperwork without hard evidence. You realize you aren't really smuggling drugs, you are just shipping tractor parts with a secret drawer. It is brilliant. It is flawless. But perfection breeds ambition, and as you scale the system up, the math is about to get terrifying. Your job evolves. You stop visiting the warehouse. You never actually touch the product. You become the route manager. Your entire world shrinks down to a master spreadsheet on a heavily encrypted laptop. You plan, you schedule. You anticipate bottlenecks. You map out the border crossings like a military general planning a campaign. You rotate between 3 different ports of entry. You use 3 distinct corporate identities, each with years of clean tax records and impeccable credit. You never send 2 shipments through the same checkpoint in the same week. You randomize the driver rotations so no one gets too comfortable. But human error is the only thing you can't control, so you build a digital fortress. Every driver carries a GPS-enabled burner phone that pings your laptop every 60 seconds. Communication goes through 4 layers of encrypted messaging. And at the center of it all is your masterpiece, the dead man's switch. If you don't enter a specific 32-character passphrase into the master server every 48 hours, the system assumes you are dead or in federal custody. It instantly wipes every device in the network. 0 evidence in under 9 seconds. 18 months in, the numbers are staggering. You are moving 200 kilos of methamphetamine across the US border every single month. Your delivery success rate is 98.5%. The missing 1.5% is due to flat tires and bad weather, not law enforcement seizures. You have never lost a single gram to the DEA. You officially become the most profitable, untouchable unit in the entire cartel. You think you have accounted for every possible variable, but you forgot one simple fact about human nature. Greed always breaks the math. Which brings you right back to that glowing burner phone in the middle of the night. 3 kilos missing in El Paso. The driver swearing his innocence, the manager demanding blood. In the old days, a cartel boss would just torture both of them until someone confessed. But you are not a boss, and you don't do torture. You do data. You bypass the shouting and pull the raw GPS telemetry from the truck's onboard computer. You trace the exact route from the border crossing all the way to the drop house. Everything looks perfectly normal until you hit a truck stop in Las Cruces, New Mexico. The driver pulled over for diesel. The log shows he was parked at pump number 4 for 22 minutes. It takes exactly 12 minutes to fuel a rig that size. You don't send a hit squad. You send a wire transfer to a local hacker on your payroll. 20 minutes later, you are watching the gas station security camera footage on your laptop. The timestamp matches perfectly. You watch the grainy black and white video as your driver walks to the back of the trailer. He looks over his shoulder, breaks the secondary seal, and pulls out a heavy duffel bag. He hides it behind a dumpster. You don't call the driver, you don't yell, you simply download the video file onto a silver flash drive, drive to the restaurant, and slide it across the table to Elias. He doesn't say a word, he just puts it in his pocket and pays for your steak. 2 weeks later, the driver's wife calls the main dispatch office, crying, asking if anyone has seen her husband. The dispatcher hangs up. You sit at your desk, listening to the phone ring, feeling absolutely nothing. You just open your spreadsheet and write a new line of code. From now on, any unscheduled stop longer than 8 minutes triggers an automatic lockdown. The math is fixed, the system is secure, but you are about to find out that bloodstains don't wash off a keyboard. You build a wall of numbers to keep the reality out. But numbers have a funny way of bleeding through. It happens on a quiet Thursday morning. You are drinking black coffee, scrolling through a national news aggregator, looking for border policy updates. Instead, you see a local headline out of Springfield, Missouri. A 15-year-old girl was found dead on her parents' bathroom tiles. A fatal overdose. Methamphetamine laced with a lethal dose of fentanyl. Your organization doesn't manufacture fentanyl. Your product is supposed to be pure, but you know exactly how the street-level distributors operate. They step on the product. They cut it with cheap synthetic opioids to stretch their profit margins. The local police department seized the rest of the dealer's stash and released a high-resolution photo of the packaging to warn the public. You stare at the screen. Your coffee goes cold. You recognize the specific shade of industrial blue tape. You recognize the faint stamped serial number on the vacuum seal. Your hands are shaking as you open your laptop. You type in your 32-character passphrase. You open the master spreadsheet. You hit Control F. You type in the serial number from the police photo. The screen jumps to line 4028. There it is, Route 3. Crossed in Juárez, staged in El Paso, moved to a drop house in Albuquerque, and distributed to the Midwest market, specifically Springfield. You cleared that exact shipment 3 weeks ago. You authorized the route. You paid the driver. For 2 years, you have told yourself a very comforting lie. You told yourself you were just a corporate logistics manager. You told yourself you were no different than a dispatcher at FedEx or Amazon. You just moved boxes from point A to point B. You never touched a gun. You never pushed a needle into anyone's arm. But sitting in the pale light of your monitor, looking at a school photo of a dead girl with braces, the lie shatters. You aren't a freight forwarder. You are a killer who uses a keyboard instead of a trigger. The guilt doesn't have time to destroy you because the DEA gets to work first. It starts small. A stash house in Denver gets raided. Then a driver out of Albuquerque goes completely silent. The dead man switch triggers, wiping the servers clean, but the paranoia sets in. The net is tightening, and then on a random Tuesday, Elias simply vanishes. No arrest record, no blood, just an empty office and a disconnected phone line. Nature abhors a vacuum, and the cartel fills it immediately. By Thursday, a man named Navarro is sitting in Elias's leather chair. Navarro doesn't wear tailored suits. He wears heavy gold chains and a violent temper. He doesn't understand logistics or data. He understands fear. He calls you into his office, locks the door, and slams a blank notepad onto the desk. He tells you the transition requires transparency. He wants the entire network documented. Every single route, every dummy corporation, every driver rotation, and every drop house address. He wants it all written down on that notepad. You stare at the blank paper. You know exactly what it represents. In this world, as long as the multi-million-dollar supply chain exists solely inside your head, you are untouchable. You are a necessary asset. The exact second you transfer that knowledge onto paper, you become entirely replaceable. Navarro isn't asking for an operational briefing. He is asking you to sign your own death certificate. You don't pick up the pen. You tell Navarro you need a few hours to compile the routing data from your encrypted servers, promising to bring the physical copy to his office by morning. He nods, completely unaware that he just made a fatal logistical error. He gave you time. You drive back to your concrete apartment. You don't open your laptop. You don't look at the spreadsheet. Instead, you walk into your kitchen, reach behind the refrigerator, and pull out a small piece of folded paper taped to the copper coils. It is a business card. 8 months ago, a man who introduced himself as a federal agent handed it to you at a gas station in El Paso. He told you to call if the math ever stopped making sense. You hid the card and tried to forget it existed. You dial the number from a clean burner phone. The agent picks up on the second ring. You talk for exactly 40 minutes. You don't negotiate. You just dictate data. You give him the GPS rotation protocols. You give him the addresses of all 14 active drop houses. You give him the encryption keys, the driver schedules, and the exact border crossing windows. Finally, you give him the name of the restaurant where Navarro eats lunch every single day. You take a multinational supply chain that took 2 years to build, and you meticulously dismantle it over a single phone call. The tactical raids happen simultaneously across 3 states and 2 countries. 41 arrests are made before the sun goes down. Federal agents seize $22 million in cash. Navarro is in handcuffs before his steak even arrives at his table. The empire is gone. You are placed in witness protection. They relocate you to a quiet neighborhood in Boise, Idaho. The air is cold and smells like pine trees. The federal government sets you up with a desk job at a local freight company. Your daily routine is processing bills of lading, customs declaration, and shipping manifests. It is the exact same mind-numbing work you did at 20 years old. The only difference is that this time, the cargo moving through the system is actually auto parts and farming equipment. Every single number is legal. You survived, you are safe, but the ghosts of the past never really let go. Every night, when the apartment goes dark, you cannot close your eyes. You sit at a small desk in the corner, pull out a notebook and a pen. You start to draw. You don't draw meaningless pictures. You draw maps. You sketch out interstate highways, border crossings, and customs checkpoints. You meticulously recreate the entire distribution network that you destroyed with your own hands. And then you start optimizing it. You find faster transit routes. You calculate tighter delivery windows. You cross out blind spots that could cause a delay. You are trapped in a mental life sentence, frantically optimizing a criminal machine that no longer exists. People always believe the underworld is ruled by cold-blooded men willing to pull a trigger. They are completely wrong. Violence is just a tool. The real empire runs on logistics. The most dangerous man in the room never carries a weapon. He carries a spreadsheet. Who do you think is more terrifying? The cartel boss or the guy doing the math? Let me know in the comments below.